So how do you get your first SMMA client? That is the number one question I've been getting recently when I've been speaking to brand new business owners. A lot of people over the last year, particularly like young guys who are under 25, have all been buying these SMMA programs from all the big influencers, which have been promising them, their first few clients, the money, the time, the freedom, the status, as long as they can become an SMMA agency owner. And what happens is, and I've heard this over and over and over again in different calls, is they're trying all these different tactics, all these techniques that are outlined in the course, and it doesn't actually end up working for them. And then they get really frustrated and they end up being really inconsistent with what they're doing and really demotivated as well. So in this video today, I'm going to give you a few tips that, because I also experienced this as well, I'm going to give you a few tips that helped me at the start. And number one, the biggest tip, right, that anyone can ever teach you is that you've got to focus. For you guys out there that have the attention span of a friggin' flea, who can't watch this video through, who end up trying to click off the video and end up going and scrolling on TikTok because there's not some flashing lights or some girl twerking in the background, you might as well quit, right? You might as well just stop trying to run a business, because business is about doing the necessary things which are often boring for long periods of time in a consistent manner. So number one is focus. I want your whole undivided attention for this video, okay? So number two, a lot of you are trying to run before you can walk. You haven't ever been in a prospecting mode, so outreach. You haven't ever been a person who's done lots and lots of outreach per day, because it's a completely alien process to you. So what you end up doing is you end up beating yourself up because you can't send 100 DMs a day. You're like, I've not sent 100 DMs today, so I'm not going to do anything, and I'll just try again tomorrow. And then you end up getting this like outreach shame debt to yourself, right? That builds up over the weeks, and then you end up thinking, I've not done anything today, I'll just do it tomorrow. And then it gets to tomorrow and you're like, God, now I need to do twice as much. That's the wrong attitude to have. A lot of these processes of building your business are completely alien, so you need to introduce yourself to it comfortably in a slow manner. When I first sent out bearing in mind I ran an outreach agency, which is specialized on like LinkedIn. When I first sent my first ever message on LinkedIn, or went to send my first ever message, I reread the message like 5 to 10 times over the period of an hour. I changed little bits of it. You know why? Because I was nervous about what the person would think on the other end. I wasn't sure if they were going to shout at me. I wasn't sure if they were going to send me a rude message back. And right at the start, with my fragile ego, because everyone's got a fragile ego right at the start of the process, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I had to ease myself into it. Day one, I had to type the message, right? Get it perfect. And I was like, it's getting a bit late in the day. What happens if, they're really busy at the moment and I catch them at the wrong time? Day two, then I sent the message, right? And then day three, I sent 2 messages. Day 4, I sent 2 messages again, right? And over the period of a few weeks, I managed to build that up to 5 messages consistently per day, okay? So you've got to walk before you can run, because it's too much mental game for you to actually just go in there and start crushing 100 outreach per day, particularly when you're not used to it, right? It's too much. None of these SMMA courses talk about this. Number 2, a lot of these SMMA courses say you've got to charge huge amounts for your service, and this is the type of price that you should be charging. And I do agree with that. But the problem is that even though you might consciously agree with that, emotionally, you probably don't agree with that. Because if you're anything like me, which is most of the population, I did not come from money. I had no money growing up. I had to work for everything that I ever earned. I was on a minimum wage job, and that felt like a lot of money to me. So me going and asking for a client for $5,000 a month, or even just a $5,000 payment, is too much for my brain to process. It's too much of a bigger ask. And if I do ask for that on my first ever sales call, I'm never going to close it anyway, because I haven't got the level of conviction there I need to actually close that deal, to convey certainty, which is something that Jordan Belfort talks about, to the other person. So you've got to start at a much lower price than that. You've got to sell something to a person for the first time where you feel like you're giving too much value for the money that you're getting in return. Because the moment you're working for someone and think to yourself, should have charged more for this, is the moment you truly start to realize your own value, the own value which you can give to someone and what the price tag of it is. You can't go and talk to someone about what price tag they should pay you if you don't truly believe it yourself. Because A, they'll never believe you, and B, you'll probably crumble trying to ask for that. Your mind will collapse in on itself, right? And it's a super, super strange world how the human brain works. And I think too many courses are filled with mindset section where you've got to go and meditate and say 20 affirmations because that's going to help you, overcome your uncertainty. But really what you need to do to overcome your uncertainty is to do the actions. And the actions are like bricks. They build upon each other. Day one, you're not going to be able to, if you come from no money, day one, you're not going to be able to ask for the $2,000, $3,000 deal. Day 100, you might be able to after you've done a few deals which are increasingly expensive, so your own value can feel like it's climbing up. Some of these SMMA courses that actually sold to you by people I'm in circles, right? I know some of these people have come from money. And when a person has come from money and built $1 million agency versus a person who's come from no money and built $1 million agency, $1 million per year, they have had completely different struggles and obstacles coming up because they've had completely different starting points, even though the end points are exactly the same. The mindsets are completely different. Person A, who's the rich person who maybe was rich before he built his agency or has been around money, might have that mentality that, yeah, it's just $5,000, right? It's just normal to charge this. Whereas person B, who's never had this type of money, this exposure to money before, will be like, that's a lot of money. If I just close this deal, I can spend it on A, B, and C. If I just do this, if I just do this, if I just do this, it becomes like endpoint orientated rather than process driven. Okay. So just remember these things when you're trying to actually build that agency, trying to get that first client. So point number 3, we've covered focus. We've covered taking the baby steps first so your mind can adjust. Point number 3 as well. So many of you are cold pitching, and that's great because it works, but the best way to get your clients is from people that you know first of all, because remember, it's kind of a little bit of a mindset game, okay? And if you can maybe take a free client on and do this completely alien process, whatever your service is, for this free client who's maybe a family member, and if they can maybe recommend you to somebody slightly outside the circle, so if you picture circles, you've got your immediate family in the middle, your immediate friends, then you got the second circle, it's kind of like LinkedIn contacts, you've got your second degree connections and then your third degree connections. It's so much easier to charge these guys minimal in the middle and work your way on the to the outside, and as you are working your way to the outside, gradually increase your price like that. Relationships help you to sell. You could pitch 1,000 people the best pitch ever, right? But they don't know you. They don't know to trust what you do. They don't know how, if you're just after the money, right? They don't know if you're very good at what you actually do, right? Or you could build a relationship with a person or already have a predefined relationship, and it's much easier to sell to them because the trust is there, they know you. One of the first biggest deals that I ever closed, it was 5 figures and it was huge to me at the time. I'd sent this guy a video message, and it was not a video message pitching him or anything like this. It was just a video message saying, hey, how are you? Welcome to my network. I think it was over LinkedIn. Oh, I see you do A, B, and C. That's really interesting. And he ended up having a problem which I could later solve. And he'd been pitched tons of times since I'd met him, right? But he came back to me because I was the only one who took the trouble to just introduce myself and have a general bit of a chit chat and make a bit of effort with him. That meant I gained over 5 figures in a single deal. And all these other guys who were probably more experienced in sales than me didn't gain anything. They lost him as a client. Right when I had that, the little switch in my brain flicked and I was like, people need to know me. Like I logically knew it, but I didn't know it deep down. People need to know me before they will actually purchase from me. It sounds so obvious, but the closer relationship you can have with someone, the more likely they will pay you. pay you huge amounts. And it kind of goes back to like dating as well. If you go up to a girl in a bar and you're after one thing, you're going to get rejected. Even if your pitch to her was quite good and she actually quite liked you, she just doesn't want to feel used. The same principles apply to sales as well. But if you have somebody that you kind of know, right? Most people in relationships end up dating. I think the number one thing is workplace relationships, like people who end up going to marriage. And the number two thing is actually like someone from their childhood or from their school or something like that. Okay, so when you consider that, is it people that have been cold pitched that end up going on to marrying their partner, right? No, it's not. It's people they already knew or people they've had a long, burning, slow building relationship with. The same is true for sales as well. So think about this. Think about, who do I know right now? Get focused, charge them only a little bit to help your mindset. Think about, who do I know right now who's doing something? Who can I reach out to? You don't just ask them, blah, blah, blah. You just say to them, I'm trying to build an agency. I'm looking for a bit of experience here. Is there anything I can do for you? The money conversation will come naturally after that. But just take what you can get at the start, because remember, it's building blocks. Everyone just wants that instant gratification of jumping to level 10. What you need actually is just to go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Take care. See you in the next one. Focus.